The 19th century was indeed a new stage of mankind's enlightenment. During the past few decades, several struggles of nationalism was recorded. In this age, ideas of freedom, liberty, and equality, and the belief in the sovereignty of the people in determining government thundered all across Europe. We can assume that on that age, the world is evolving to a new system of society with the help of the bizarre ideas of different philosophers such as Jean-Jacques Rousseau, Voltaire, John Locke, Karl Marx that spread around the globe. In 1861, Tsar Alexander II, Emperor of Russia, King of Poland and Grand Duke of Finland from 1855 to 1881, emancipated Russian serfs, for which he is known as Alexander the Liberator. The said emancipation reform of 1861, which is the year of our hero's birth, freed the serfs was the most important event in Russian history, which is considered as the beginning of the end for the landed aristocracy's monopoly of power. The same age, Germany was in the process of unification, which took place in 1871. Prussia had established its military and economic superiority in Central Europe. This, combined with the decline of Austrian influence, resulted in the unification of the German estates. United States suffered the American Civil War, which lasted from 1861 to 1865 under Abraham Lincoln's administration. The Civil War was considered as the bloodiest and most divisive conflict, pitting the Union Army against the Confederate States of America. The war resulted in the deaths of more than 620,000 people, with millions more injured. In 1861, French Emperor Napoleon III maneuvered to establish a French client state in Mexico, and eventually installed Archduke Maximilian as Emperor of Mexico, but resulted only for a short period of time by reason of the fact that Juarez's forces is much stronger against Archduke Maximilian, which the latter overthrew to his throne in 1865. In France, the regime of Napoleon III was crumbling after the debacle in Mexico. Later, the French overthrew the monarchies and established a republic. At this time, however, most of Spain's colonies, such as those in South and Central America, such as Mexico, Chile, Argentina, Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Nicaragua, El Salvador, Honduras, and others have won their independence from Spain through revolution. The Philippines was one of Spain's remaining colonies along with Cuba, Puerto Rico, and the Spanish Sahara. During Napoleon's time, Spain was part of France's alliance against Great Britain in continental system. When this alliance altered, Napoleon invaded Spain in 1808 and installed his brother as king. The Spaniard resisted the French. The Spanish patriots declared allegiance to their crown prince Ferdinand, and gathered in the city of Cadiz, where they crafted a constitution. The Constitution of Cadiz had a novel feature of allowing colonies to be represented in the Spanish Parliament called the Cortes. In Asia, there were renewed efforts of European penetration with the weakening of Spain and Portugal and the rise of Great Britain and France. The British gained its colony in Hong Kong and forced China to open 5 ports to its traders following China's defeat in the Opium War of 1839 to 1842. China was humiliated with another defeat in the Arrow War of 1856 to 1858, when the British, now joined by the French, and forced China to open the whole country to foreigners. Great Britain enlarges their colony in Hong Kong by taking over Colon. Japan was forced open by the Americans under Commodore Matthew Perry in 1854. India became a crown colony of Great Britain in 1858, following the suppression of Sepoy Mutiny in 1857. Burma became colony of Great Britain after 3 Burmese wars in 1824 to 1826, 1862 to 1863, and 1885 to 1886. Indochina became a protectorate of France following the suppression of the kingdoms of Annam and Cochin. Malaysia became a protectorate and eventually a colony of Great Britain, while Indonesia was conquered by the Dutch of Netherlands. While in the Philippines were browsing redolently beneath the shadow of the cross. Changes in the 19th century had profound effects to the Philippines. During the previous centuries, it was forbidden for the Philippines to trade with other countries because of Spain's monopolistic policy. But colonial officials ignored the instruction and traded with other nations. By 1834, this mercantilist policy of not allowing the Philippines to trade with other countries was scrapped with the opening of Manila to world trade. The system of government is monarchy. The power came from the king, who appointed and assigned colonial officials and also issued royal decrees. At first, he was helped by the Council of Indies, then later became minister of the colonies. The colonial order was maintained largely by native officials such as gobernadorcillos, the councilmen, and the principalia. The policemen were also natives, and even the composition of the local Spanish army and civil guards was largely native. Only the officials with the rank sergeants were Spaniards. Until 1821, the Philippines really was ruled by the Spanish viceroy in Mexico in the name of the king. This was because the Philippines were colonized from Mexico. However, after Mexico got its independence in 1821, the Philippines was ruled directly from Madrid, Spain. The Governor-General is the highest official in the Philippines. He represents the King of Spain in the Philippines. He could make laws himself. He could appoint and remove colonial officials. except those appointed by the king. He is the commander-in-chief of the colonial armed forces. He is the president of the Royal Audiencia, like the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court today. The laws of the Philippines were made by the Spaniards. The major laws were compiled in a legal code called Law of the Andes. Spain formed the origin of our present system of local government.